Okay, everyone, as promised, I'm going to give you a video on how to do synthetic division. I know yesterday in class when we were doing long division, it was somewhat painful for people and you don't really like doing it, and I totally get that. Synthetic division you're going to love because it's so much easier. Okay, they call it synthetic division. Synthetic means something that's fake, like synthetic fiber is like not, or synthetic cotton, or sometimes you'll hear that term. It's because it's not real. So synthetic division, it's not real division, but it gets you the same answer you would get if you did long division. It's so much easier. It's actually kind of fun, and I know that sounds kind of silly, but you know me, I think all math is fun. So there you go. So I'm going to do this example. This is not on your sheet, so I just want you to watch this one and see the steps that I'm doing very carefully, and then we can work through the two problems that are on your guided note sheet from yesterday. So just pay careful attention with this example. I'm actually going to do it two ways. I'm going to do it as long division just for your review, and then I'll do it as synthetic division, and you'll see how much quicker it is and that you in fact do get the same answer. So if I do this as long division, I have x squared minus 5x minus 14. That's what goes under my division symbol, and then I have x plus 2. Now remember, I said this is kind of like solving a puzzle. I have to figure out what do I multiply x by to get x squared. And we know then I have to multiply by x. So x times x gives me x squared, but then I also need to make sure I multiply this x up here by the 2. So x times 2 gives me 2x. From here then we are subtracting. I think it's really helpful if you put it in parentheses and then put your subtraction sign out front. Okay, so you have x squared minus x squared. You know those terms are going to cancel out. They have to, otherwise you did something wrong. So then I have negative 5x minus a positive 2x. A negative times a positive is a negative. So we have negative 5x minus 2x gives me negative 7x. This is where people are going to make the most mistakes, is messing up their signs and doing their subtraction wrong. So be careful with that. Bring that next term down, and then you're going to start all over. What do I have to multiply x by to get negative 7x? Well, I have to multiply by negative 7. Negative 7 times x gives me negative 7x. Negative 7 times 2 gives me negative 14. Okay. Put that in parentheses and subtract. Negative 7 minus a negative 7. A negative times a negative is a positive, so those are going to add to 0. They're going to cancel each other out. Negative 14 minus a negative 14. A negative times a negative is a positive. So negative 14 plus 14 is 0. So in this case, my answer is just x minus 7. I don't have a remainder. Okay? Now, I'm going to do the same exact problem with synthetic division. The first thing I'm going to do is write out what my coefficients are here. So I have 1 in front of x squared, then negative 5, then negative 14. I'm going to write those out. I have 1, negative 5, and negative 14. So that's the first part. Take your coefficients, make sure it's in standard form, and write them all down. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I'm dividing by, set that equal to 0, and solve it. Okay, since x plus 2 is a factor of this, that's what we're saying when we divide it. We're saying make x plus 2 a factor of this. That must mean that when I solve it and I get negative 2, that's a solution. Here's what you're going to do. And I know this looks funny because it's not like anything you've ever seen before. But you're going to put this funky little bracket, and you're going to take that number and put it in there. So I'm going to put negative 2 in my funky little bracket. So I have my setup complete for my synthetic division. Okay, so this is my setup. You want to draw a line there. This is how I'm setting it up. And here's what you're going to do. It's very, very, very easy. Take that first coefficient or that first number and bring it down below the line because you're not doing anything with that. You're going to multiply this number that's in your bracket with that number that's down here. So negative 2 times 1 gives me negative 2. I'm going to write that up here. And then I'm going to add those numbers together. So negative 5 and negative 2 gives me negative 7. And now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to multiply negative 2 times negative 7, and I'm going to write that up here. So negative 2 times negative 7 gives me positive 14. I'm going to add these numbers together, and I get 0. Notice what I have here. I have the same number that would be in front of the x. I have negative 7, which I also have up here. And then my last number is my remainder. Same thing I had here. I had 0 remainder here. I have 0 here. All you have left to do is write your answer, because you're not done. You have to write it in the proper form. Here's what you do. Because I started with x squared and I divided by x, that must mean that my first term is x. Okay? It's actually 1x because there's a 1 here, but I just don't need to write the 1. My next term is negative 7. It's constant because I'm going in standard form. So since I have an x term, then my next one is just negative 7. And then I have no remainder. So that's my answer. That is synthetic division. It's much easier, much quicker, a lot more fun, less chances to make mistakes, truly. So now, since you watched that, now go to the sheet, the guided notes from yesterday. These are the 2 examples that are on your sheet under synthetic division, and we'll go through them together. So I want you to go through this with me. Okay? We have our coefficients here. So I have 1, I have 5, and I have negative 28. Remember, I'm going to set this equal to 0. X minus 3 equals 0. And I'm going to solve that. I get x equals 3. So that's what goes in my funky little bracket here. I'm going to draw my line, and that's my setup. So if you need to pause the video for a second to get yourself set up, go ahead and do that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that first term down. And then I'm going to multiply. 3 times 1 is 3. I write that here. And then I'm adding those terms together. Gives me 8. Do the same thing again. 3 times 8 is 24. I'm going to write that here. And then I'm going to add. I end up with a negative 4. There's nothing else to do here, so this last term is my remainder. Because I had x squared and I divided by x, my first term here is x. X plus 8. And then with my remainder, negative 4 over what I divided by, which was x minus 3. And that's my answer. You are going to want to make sure you know how to do this, because come in later units and later topics, this is going to make your life so much easier, because we're going to get pretty intense with the stuff that we're doing, okay? So make sure you know how to do this. Let's try with this next one. If you look at this next one, remember this is not in standard form right now, so we need to put it into standard form. If I were to rewrite this, I would have 2y cubed minus y squared. Remember there's no y term, so I want to make sure I put in a placeholder. I have to make sure I put in 0y plus 25. So these are the coefficients that I'm going to write down. So I have 2, I have negative 1, then I have 0, and then I have 25. If you don't put that 0 in, you're going to have a mistake. Okay, so make sure you put that placeholder in. I'm going to set this equal to 0 and solve for y. I get y equals 3. Okay, so that's what goes in my funky little bracket. Draw your line and go ahead and start. Bring your 2 down. 3 times 2 is 6. That goes here. Add those together, you get 5. 3 times 5 is 15. That goes here. Add those together, and you get 15. 3 times 15 is 45. Add those together, and you get 70. Remember, this last term is my remainder. Because I started with y cubed, and I divided by y, my first term here is y squared. So I have 2y squared. And then it just goes in order from there in standard form. Plus 5y plus 15 plus 70 over y minus 3. That is synthetic division, folks. It's so much easier than long division, but you have to learn long division. Unfortunately, you have to be able to do it. But this is synthetic division, so much easier. Let me show you a little bit tougher one. If you want to write this down, take a second. Write it. You can probably write it right on that sheet, on that guided note sheet. Pause the video, write this down, see if you can do it. I'm going to do it up here. Try it on your own, and then you can play the video. See if you get the same answer as me. This is a little bit of a longer one. It's not any harder. There's just more terms. Okay? We'll give it a shot and see how it goes. Go ahead if you want to pause the video and try it on your own, and then you can watch the solution. Okay? So here I go. First thing I'm going to do here is I want to set this equal to 0, and I get x equals 2. I'm going to use my coefficient. So I have 1 for x to the 4th, 1 for x to the 3rd, and then negative 11 for x squared, and then 18, and then negative 16. In my bracket here I have 2. I'm going to draw my line, and then I'm going to go ahead and start. Bring that 1 down. 2 times 1 is 2. Add those together, you get 3. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to add those together. I get negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. I'm going to add those together and I get 8. 2 times 8 is 16. When I add those together, I get 0. So my remainder here is 0. Because I started with x to the 4th and I divided by x, my first term here is x to the 3rd. And then I just decrease my exponent by 1 each time, and I end up writing my answer in standard form. And that is my answer. Much quicker, much easier, a lot more fun. That is synthetic division. Hopefully that'll help you out. Just a quick note, on Monday there will be a short quiz on the stuff that we've done so far in this unit. A couple of things. There'll be probably one division problem on there, okay? And it won't be too difficult. I'll do a long division and a synthetic division problem on your quiz on Monday. There'll be some multiplying and a couple of other things. Maybe a quick Pascal's triangle, expanding a binomial, okay? And it'll be short. But that's division. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all on Tuesday. Let me know if you have any questions on Monday before the quiz. Have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Halloween. Have a safe Halloween. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.